In this video lecture, we are going to have a look at the balanced growth doctrine. Although we use the term theory in the literature, more than a theory, it's a doctrine. This is because using the concept of balanced growth, several theories have been developed. Many economists have referred to this concept without using the terms balanced growth. The term or the concept of balanced growth can mean different things. Throughout the literature on development and growth, you can see these various meanings being referred to. So it could mean balance between the agricultural sector and the industrial sector. One is the sector which is producing basic necessities, whereas the others is more technologically advanced sector. It can mean the balance between different consumer goods industries. It can mean as the balance between consumer goods sector and the capital goods sector. Similarly, it can refer to a balance between investments being made in this building up of social overhead capital and investments in directly productive activities. Remember, examples of social overhead capital would be investments in power generation, investments in building up education and health of a society, and so on. All these projects require large, lumpy investments of capital, and the gestation period associated with these projects is quite large. On the other hand, directly productive activities are investments in firms that produce, say, consumer goods and goods where here the gestation period is small. Gestation period is the time period between investing the capital and the time when you start enjoying the returns on your investment. So in directly productive activities, when you're talking about setting up a firm to produce consumer goods, say, the gestation period is quite small. Whereas when you're talking about building up overhead, social overhead capital, infrastructure projects, education, health, power generation, such projects have a long gestation period. You will be investing capital now, but there will be a long period of time before which or only after which you will start getting your returns on your investment, right? So it can be a balance between investment in social overhead capital and directly productive activities. It also refers to the balance between the domestic or the internal sector, domestic markets, and the external trade sector, right? Your exports and imports. So balancing between satisfying domestic demand and foreign demand, and so on. Generally accepted meaning of the concept of balanced growth is the simultaneous and harmonious development of different sectors of the economy so that they all grow in unison or they all grow together. Now, this doctrine of balanced growth has been advocated in different theories by people like Rosenstein-Roden. His book Push Theory we covered in the last few video lectures. Ragnar Nurkse. Nurkse is the one who came up with the term of the vicious cycle of poverty. Again, this is a theory that you have already covered in your UG classes. Arthur Lewis is another economist who hasn't used the term balanced growth, but his theory uses or works on the concept of balanced growth. The Lewis theory is also called the theory of unlimited supplies of labor. Okay. You people are following the new syllabus. In the earlier MA syllabus, Arthur Lewis's theory was one of the main theories that used to come. In your syllabus, however, it has been removed from the module. So, just a quick relook at Rosenstein-Rodin's theory of big push. Like I said, this theory was published, the big theory of big push was first published in an article in 1943. And although he doesn't use the term balanced growth, the entire theory does refer to the concept of balanced growth. And what does Rosenstein-Rodin's theory basically say? That the private marginal product and the social marginal product of an investment are widely different. So, for an economy to grow faster, investment has to be made simultaneously, not just in one industry but in a group of industries based on their social marginal product. Only then will the economy grow faster. Okay, remember he talks about how there are externalities. The reason for externalities is because your private marginal product and your social marginal product are not one and the same. There is a deviation. However, private entrepreneur, when he is trying to determine how much to invest, he will only take into consideration the line called the private marginal product or his private marginal benefit. He does not take into consideration the social marginal product or the social marginal benefit being enjoyed by the society at large because of an investment that he makes. And because of this deviation, a private entrepreneur will tend to underinvest or invest less than what is socially optimum. To encourage him or to give him an incentive to invest, you have to ensure that such investments are being made simultaneously in not just one industry or not just one sector but in a group of industries. So Rodin suggests that simultaneous investments in a large group of industries will also enlarge the market. So when you enlarge the market, when you have a larger number of people receiving incomes, willing to spend that income, so you're increasing the aggregate demand at large and you're encouraging the market to expand. And if you have an assured market, the private sector entrepreneurs will also have an incentive to invest. So if it has to work out, all the investments in different sectors in different forms has to be done simultaneously. Remember the shoe factory example that we discussed in the theory of big push. If only one entrepreneur invests in one shoe factory, he is not assured of a market. He is not assured that there will be enough market to purchase the entire output that he is producing. On the other hand, instead of one factory employing 100 workers, if you employ 100 factories employing 100 workers each, you have more income being generated, and if more income is being generated and received, there will be more demand, and because there is an increase in demand, every individual entrepreneur is assured that his output will be sold. So even though Rodin doesn't use the term balanced growth, the very prescription to the problem of an underdeveloped economy that Rodin suggests is that of balanced growth. It says simultaneously invest across a large group of industries. Right? Another person who actually introduced the term of balanced growth, the terminology, is Ragnar Nurkse. The name of his book is Problems of Capital Formation in Underdeveloped Countries. Okay. Now, Nurkse is the person who first used the term of vicious cycle of poverty. I'm sure you remember this from your UG classes, but I'm just going to revise it once more. So this vicious cycle of poverty, it operates both from the supply side as well as the demand side, and it operates in such a way that an underdeveloped country, which is called poor and underdeveloped because of low per capita income, will continue to remain at this low per capita income level. So on the supply side, you're a low income country, so you have a small capacity to save. So as you cannot save much, you cannot invest much, so your capital formation levels will be low. If you're low capital formation, you will have low productivity. Low productivity will again lead back to low levels of per capita income, which means again low capacity to save. So on the supply side, you can see how the vicious cycle of poverty means you are poor because you are poor. Now on the demand side, how does it work? So you're an underdeveloped country, economy with low income, where people have very low per capita levels of income, which means you have very low ability to demand. And if you have very low ability to demand, no entrepreneur, especially private entrepreneur, will have any incentive to invest, right? So if you have low demand, small size of a market, there will be low investments or no investments. And if there is no investment, there is no capital formation, there is low productivity, and low productivity will once again lead back to low levels of per capita income. Nurkse also refers to Rosenstein-Rodin's theory of book push and talks about stresses on how it is the small size of the market which inhibits the private entrepreneur from making investments. A private entrepreneur is not assured that everything that he produces will be sold. That is what it means when you say he's not assured that there is a market for, or there is demand for his goods. So if he's not assured that there is demand for his goods, there is market for his production, he will hesitate or he will not want to invest and in capital formation. So in the same spirit as Rosenstein-Rodin, he says that enlargement of the markets is the only solution that can break this vicious cycle of poverty within which your underdeveloped countries are trapped. So Nurkse calls for balanced growth, which is a synchronized use of capital across a wide range of projects in different industries, which can raise the general level of economic efficiency and enlarge the size of the market. So this was his prescription for all underdeveloped economies that are stuck in the vicious cycle of poverty or trapped in the vicious cycle of poverty. According to Nurkse, by using capital in a synchronized and harmonious way across a wide range of products, across different industries, we are taking advantages of the complementarities and externalities on the production side or on the supply side. And similarly, we are also taking advantage of the complementarities of demand, complementarities existing on the demand side. So by taking such an effort, we are making way, or we are allowing for vertical and horizontal integration, encouraging division of labor, ensuring better utilization of social as well as economic overhead capital. The common source of raw materials gets utilized more efficiently. Technical skills are generated as well as utilized more efficiently, and so on. So there are a number of advantages of this approach according to Nurkse. While talking about this balanced growth doctrine, In his theory, Nurkse emphasizes on the need for balanced growth between the agricultural and the industrial sector. We know that the agricultural sector provides the basic necessities such as food and raw materials. Both of these are required, are necessities for the industrial sector. Right? The industrial sector or the manufacturing sector, if it needs to manufacture goods, it needs raw materials, which will come from the agrarian sector. Similarly, it pays wages to its people, to its laborers, and while the wages might be in money, they need actual food and basic necessities to be satisfied so that they can continue working. And this food and these necessities are supplied from the agricultural sector. So ignoring the agricultural sector and only paying attention to the industrial sector will also be problematic, because then you will be dependent on external sources for basic necessities such as food and raw materials. Okay. Then he also talks about, similarly we also say that agriculture also benefits from the growth of the industrial sector. The examples we give is the machinery, agricultural machinery that we get, and also as the industry expands and it employs more and more people, the market for the agricultural sector is getting enlarged. So there is a two-way relationship between the agricultural and industrial sector, and therefore the growth of both these sectors should take place in a balanced manner rather than at the cost of one another. Similarly, he also stresses on the need for balance between production for the foreign sector and the domestic sector. So both these sectors should also grow. Production for both these sectors should also grow in a balanced manner. The foreign sector is quite important because it earns the underdeveloped country foreign exchange, which is very essential and which is very useful in the process of development. It can be used to fund capital import, technology and know-how imports, and so on. Similarly, you cannot expect the foreign sector or the export sector to grow at the cost of satisfaction of the domestic demand. So he calls for need of balance between the growth of foreign as well as domestic sector. Now Nurkse actually pointed out that the coordination and deliberate planning that is involved or that is required for the balanced growth doctrine to work